The NCAA gives Reggie Bush the Heisman handoff.
And the first pick of the 2024 NFL Draft is?
The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and the Lakers are ready for revenge at home tonight. All that and more coming up on Sports Scene.
Happy final episode of Sports Scene. Fight on!
That's right. It's our last episode of the school year. Welcome back to Sports Scene. I'm Casey Kasliner.
I'm Grace Schneider.
And I'm Terrence Holton. USC officially has the most Heisman winners.
The 2005 Heisman Memorial Trophy. The winner is Reggie Bush from USC.
Today, former USC legendary running back Reggie Bush, who had his Heisman reinstated. Bush, who won in 2005, was forced to relinquish the award after an investigation found out he took money from USC donors. In his time at USC, Bush was one of the lead tailbacks for the Trojans' most recent national championship, when USC won back in 2004. During his career, Bush ran for over 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns, as well as tallied over 1,300 receiving yards and 13 receiving touchdowns. In his Heisman season for the Trojans, Bush totaled over 2,200 yards from scrimmage and 18 touchdowns. After winning the Heisman in 2005, Bush was forced to forfeit the trophy in 2010 due to his violation of the NCAA rules. In 2021, Bush started advocating for reinstatement because of the NIL legislation. So do you guys think it's right that Reggie got his Heisman back?
Absolutely. I mean, he's the greatest running back in this program's history. I'm going to say that. And this is a school that was known as Tailback University for many, many years. I think he deserves it. I mean, especially with what the NIL is doing right now. Before NIL, I would have said no. But I think now with the NIL being so abundant, I think Reggie absolutely deserves it, and I'm happy he has it back.
Yeah, I have to agree with Casey. I mean, whether you agree with NIL or not, he deserves to win this award. And I think so many people at the time were doing the same thing, and they just were smart enough not to get caught. So I don't think that's fair. I think it's good that he got it reinstated. And now USC has the most amount of Heisman winners.
You know, guys, I'll play devil's advocate. I don't think he deserved to get it back. He broke the rules, and he was caught. That's the problem with it. All these other guys, they're not getting caught. You mentioned it. He broke the rules. It wasn't okay back then when the NIL obviously wasn't a thing. He broke the rules. He was caught. He shouldn't have gotten it back.
Well, that's a big discussion for another time. But the NFL Draft is set to take place tomorrow in Detroit, with quarterback Caleb Williams expected to be the first name off the board. Williams is coming off 2 electric seasons at USC, where he threw for over 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns in each of them. The 22-year-old also showed his prowess on the ground and is destined to be one of the most highly touted quarterback prospects in NFL history. In college, Williams showed that he could accurately connect with his receivers and make game-changing throws when called upon. He never threw over 5 interceptions in a season and completed over 60% of his passes each year. So we're joined by Chicago resident Pickle Coleman. Pickle, obviously the Bears have the number 1 pick, expected to take Caleb Williams. What are your thoughts as a fan?
Oh my gosh, as a fan, this could not be a better moment in Trojan and Chicago Bears history. Obviously, he's the first overall pick, but he is expected to be a day 1 starter. He's going in to a honestly amazing lineup right now. He's got don't do that. He's got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DeAndre Smith, 3 Pro Bowlers. You know, the Bears also have the 9th pick, so I'm excited to see who they grab, who Caleb will also have on his side, hoping for Rome. That would, just be another great force to have on the team. Also just hired a new offensive coordinator for the first season this season, and I think it'll be really cool to have Caleb kind of, starting at a similar time as him. They can really form that relationship from the start and make some magic happen. So I'm really excited for Caleb to not only fight on, but bear down.
So what are our expectations for Caleb Williams maybe in the first year going as a Bear?
I've said it before, I'll say it again. He's not going to work out in Chicago. The Bears are a terrible franchise with a terrible coach. He is not going to work out, and I think the Bears will ruin him.
Well, I'm not so confident like you are, Terrence, but I do think this last season at USC hurt him a little bit. I don't know if it hurt his abilities, but he didn't really go out with that bang like we were expecting him to, so maybe he'll excel in the league. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping for you, Pickle, that it turns out well.
Well, I think the big thing for Caleb is he has a chip on his shoulder, right? Like you said, he didn't go out with a national championship. He didn't go out with another Heisman, which he was the favorite going into the year. I think it's going to be kind of like a Trevor Lawrence situation. I think, yes, he's going to join a very dysfunctional franchise to start. He's going to have good receivers to start, though. I think it'll be okay to begin, and I think it'll marinate over time. He'll eventually learn the system. I think he'll be good in the long run, but I don't know if he's going to be a Bear for life. I see him being a guy that maybe joins another team sort of early on in his career.
It will be interesting to see, especially since he did make that statement about wanting to be with a team for like 20 years and wanting to be at like a franchise team. So I am really excited to see what happens and draft tomorrow. So we'll get it started.
It's not going to work out. I'm just going to
Okay,
keep playing
Terrence.
negative. It's not going to work out.
Besides Caleb Williams, the Trojans have a long roster full of NFL hopefuls. Former USC football players entering the draft include wide receivers Brendan Rice and Taj Washington, and running back Marshawn Lloyd, among others. Wide receiver Taj Washington was an impact player for the Trojans, averaging 18 yards and ringing in 8 touchdowns for the 2023 season. However, scouts predict that his smaller size will land him as a 4th or 5th round draft pick. Former USC running back Marshawn Lloyd is another NFL prospect. After only 1 season with the Trojans, Lloyd scored 9 touchdowns and ran for 820 yards. With the NFL draft kicking off tomorrow, USC fans will await the landing spots of the Trojan prospects. All eyes will be on Caleb Williams and the highly anticipated #1 pick. Now let's go ahead and send it over to Terrence at the monitor for his top 5 draft picks.
Well, Grace discussed a few of the future Trojans in the draft, but I thought I would even run through my top 5 picks in this year's NFL draft. Let's see what it looks like. So, at number 1, it's Caleb Williams. He's been the #1 prospect this entire time. Everyone thinks he's going #1. We just discussed it. Caleb Williams is going to the Bears. It's basically guaranteed at this point. Number 2, gets a little interesting here. Jaden Daniels, great prospect, 2023 Heisman winner. I think he will go to the Commanders. There are rumblings that Washington may trade down, but I think they stick with their guns. They take Daniels, and I think they end up with a great franchise quarterback. I have things mixing up here. I think the New England Patriots will take the most NFL-ready guy in the draft in Marvin Harrison Jr., but that is a gamble. The Patriots do not have a good quarterback on roster. I think they will hope to land Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix in the 2nd round, and they'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, down here, because the Patriots traded Marvin Harrison Jr., I have the Cardinals trading down with the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings get their quarterback, which they so desperately need, in Drake May. I think he's a bit of a raw prospect, but I think the Vikings need him that badly. They're willing to trade any assets to get him. And then the last pick of the top 5, I have the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, taking Joe Alt. New head coach Jim Harbaugh loves to pound the ground. He loves his big boys, you know. He loves the guys in the trenches, and I love Joe Alt. Easily the best offensive lineman in this draft, and I think they'll go with that to get Justin Herbert some protection. So this is what I believe should and would happen at the NFL draft tomorrow night. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd put down a 5-leg parlay on these picks right now. You've heard my picks, and now I'll send it back to Casey to discuss the future of Trojan football.
Thanks, Terrence. The annual USC spring football game took place on Saturday, and the defense showed out, winning 43-28. USC's 3 quarterbacks threw a combined 4 interceptions as Danton Lynn's revamped defensive unit shined the whole game. On the offensive side, the receiving corps, made up of mostly second-year players, was led by Mekhi Lemon, who had 52 yards, and other wideouts like Jacoby Lane and Zachariah Branch also made some grabs. Terrence and I shared our thoughts at the LA Coliseum following the action.
Terrence Holton here with Casey Kasler right after the USC spring football game where the USC defense won 43-28. Casey, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously a big game for the defense, but looking at the offensive side of the ball, obviously a tough game for Miller Moss and Jaden Mayava. But I was really excited to see the new receiving corps. Obviously losing Brendan Rice and Taj Washington is really detrimental to this team, but I really like that, especially too the new running back corps as well after losing Marshawn Lloyd and Austin Jones. So big day for the skill players.
Yeah, Casey, I completely agree. The wide receiver corps was fantastic. The quarterback room a little bit concerns me going forward for the Trojans. Still fantastic overall. And I think that the defense was great. Signing out, we're going to have to head out.
Guys aren't going to be the same players as they were right now today. And so as that happens, we'll certainly lean in on the right guy. And we got several guys in the room that we feel like can do it.
Miller Moss took a few more snaps than newly acquired gunslinger Jaden Mayava in the game, but both QBs had rough days. Head coach Lincoln Riley hasn't officially named which quarterback will take the starting job yet, but given Moss's experience under the system, he looks to be the favorite. They both seemed to get into a groove as the game progressed, but the defense appeared to be one step ahead of both of them. So what were your guys' main takeaways from the spring game?
Yeah, I think it was impressive show out by the defense. 4 interceptions. It's a good thing for the defense, not so great for the offense, but I was just really impressed. That's the one thing that I said I wanted to see going into the spring game with all the coaching staff changes. Again, it doesn't really give us a tell of what this team is going to look like in the fall, but I'm impressed by the defense.
Casey, we mentioned it on Saturday. I thought the wide receivers were fantastic this game. However, I think Jaden Maiava clearly outplayed Miller Moss, and it's not particularly close if we're being honest. Moss missed a lot of throws. He was short a lot of times. I think Maiava was overall a lot more complete, and I think they're going to use him a lot as a runner. We saw a lot of read option plays with him. I think he will be totally utilized this upcoming season.
Yeah, well, speaking of running, we talked about the offense. Obviously, USC is losing Marshawn Lloyd and Austin Jones, and you're also losing Caleb Williams, who was a big guy on the ground as well. I was really impressed by some of the running backs. Marion Peterson had a really good game for USC in that spring game, and I know it's one of those positions that Lincoln Riley is going to want to fill. He's an offensive-minded guy. You're losing two NFL caliber running backs. I think the running back position is going to be one really to look out for, and I saw some really good progress there in the spring game.
Casey, can I be honest with you? I wasn't impressed at all by the running backs. I think this is a really not great core, if we're being honest. I just don't think they're that good. You have Woody Marks, never ran over 600 yards in his career at Mississippi State, and behind him is just a bunch of freshmen. I just don't think they're that good. They didn't really impress me in the spring game. They just carried the ball so many times that they got a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about the receiving core. It's a young core, and the veterans are going to help those guys.
I think they're more proven, though. You saw in them, obviously, just the Holiday Bowl, and you got Zachariah Branch the rest of the season. But I think overall they're more proven.
Well, I guess we'll have to see when the season begins.
Well, it's been a busy week in the transfer portal for USC sports. Let's go ahead and check in with Will Simons at the Monitor for an update.
Yeah, thanks, Grace. With the spring transfer portal window open until the end of the month, USC football has made a couple additions to strengthen its depth at a couple of key positions this fall. Cornerback Greedy Vance Jr. committed to the Trojans Monday, and he'll be in the mix for a starting spot this fall. Vance started his career at Louisville and recorded 4 interceptions over the last 2 seasons at Florida State. And yesterday, receiver Kyle Ford returned to USC after a year across town. Ford spent 3 seasons with the Trojans from 2019 to 2022, highlighted by a huge game, as you can see right here, against the Bruins in the 2022 Crosstown Showdown. But last season, Ford transferred over to the dark side with UCLA. However, he seems to have admitted his mistake, saying in his commitment post yesterday, quote, "My fault, I was tripping." And he added that he'll make it up to Trojan fans. USC men's basketball has also been very active in the portal in recent weeks. New head coach Eric Musselman has brought in 7 transfers from various mid-majors across the country, including Rashawn Agee from Bowling Green, as well as a top 50 recruit in Isaiah Elohim. Perhaps the biggest addition, though, for USC next season will be St. Thomas from Northern Colorado. He's capable of helping the Trojans in a number of ways, as Thomas averaged just under 20 and 10 last season. In addition to 4 assists and 1.7 steals per game, you can see in these highlights, he can do a little bit of everything. And it's sure to be an interesting season for the Trojans, which will effectively have an entirely new roster this winter. Now let's kick it back to the desk. What do you guys think about all these additions?
I think you go ahead, Casey.
Well, I'm excited for all of them. I know it's obviously not the recruiting class or transfer class of last year, but I'm really excited in particular for Rashawn Agee. The Trojans obviously struggled immensely with the big men last year. This is a guy you're bringing in, shot nearly 60% last year. Look, I know he played at Bowling Green. It's not the best competition, but he averaged nearly a double-double and nearly 60%. He's a big guy. He's not the tallest guy. He's not a guy that's probably going to play center, but he can play power forward, and he's a big guy with a lot of muscle. Rashawn Agee, remember that name.
Yeah, we kind of have to see how Musselman's puzzle comes into place with all these players. We don't really know exactly what his plan looks like. We just got to trust the process. And he is bringing in these talented players, so we'll see what happens with basketball.
You know, guys, Will mentioned it earlier. I am really excited for St. Thomas. The 20 and 10 jumps out the board, especially the 10 rebounds a game, 22nd in the country. He stands at only 6'7". This guy is athletic, he is a great scorer, and he's a great defender. That's something USC didn't really have any of that last year. So I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to be a fantastic piece in this Musselman crew.
Well, we'll have to see when the season turns over. But coming up next, the Rocky Road continues for USC baseball.
And beach volleyball hits the sand in Tempe, looking for the final Pac-12 championship.
Let me tell you how we amplify our Latine voices. Check out Dímelo. We have it all. Deportes.
Entertainment. Noticias. ¿Qué tal? Soy Mariela Gómez y bienvenidos a Dime la Hora.
Radio and podcasting.
Comida y cultura. Digital social media.
¿A qué equipo le vas tú? LA Galaxy o LAFC? Dímelo is the only Latina-focused media outlet at USC. Dímelo, we have it all.
Dímelo, we have it all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
The Chia Pet and Chia Tree are available at Kmart, Rite Aid, Ames, and Woolworth. Makes a great gift.
USC Beach Volleyball took down former #1 ranked UCLA to secure the #1 spot. On Thursday, the Trojans defeated first-ranked Bruins. On the top court, senior All-American USC players Megan Kraft and Delaney Maple went 2-0, clinching the overall victory. After their performance, the duo earned the Pac-12 Pair of the Week honor. The #1 ranked Trojans gained the top seed for the 2024 Pac-12 Championship. The tournament will begin today as the Trojans will face 8th-seeded Utah. This morning, the Utes took down Oregon to earn their spot against top-seeded USC. In the top position for the Utes, sophomore Katie McAllister and freshman Langley Griffin led their team. As the Pac-12 Championship kicks off, the Trojans will look to capitalize off their top seed.
Women's golf star Catherine Park was named to the Pac-12 first team in addition to being drafted to Team USA in the Arnold Palmer Cup. Here's what Park had to say in a recent interview.
The entire round was pretty steady, and I was trying to be patient because I was missing some putts I had for birdie, and I was it was kind of edging me on, and then it was a good way to go birdie on 17 and eagle hit a really good second shot onto the green and make that putt.
Park secured her third win of the season as USC placed second at the Pac-12 Championship. She notched a championship record-breaking 15 under par score, adding to her long list of achievements this year. Park's score dominated the competition, as the next closest performer finished 5 strokes behind her. The Trojans narrowly fell behind Stanford, but still edged out Oregon and UCLA to take second. Without Park, USC wouldn't have been able to reach these heights. One of our reporters interviewed women's golfer Bailey Shoemaker, who finished 40th at the competition.
Today I'm here with Bailey Shoemaker. She's a freshman on the USC women's golf team. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, for sure.
So first, before we get into your exciting second place finish at the women's amateur, what has your golf journey looked like this far, and why USC?
USC is just one of the best academic schools in the country. Obviously a good golf as well, so it was just kind of a no-brainer for me, but I always cared about academics and getting a good degree, so I've always been a fan.
So let's get into the Augusta tournament. First of all, huge congrats. You had the record-breaking final round with the 66. That's incredible. What was that? First of all, what was the tournament like as a whole? And then second of all, what was that final round like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a surreal experience, and it's a blessing for women to finally be able to play at Augusta. And I know it's an amateur event, but it's still one of the best women's events in all of golf. I mean, honestly, it's arguably better than the U.S. Open.
At what point in that final round did you kind of know you had it? Were you looking at the leaderboard?
Of course. I'm a big leaderboard watcher.
You are? Okay, this is controversial.
Yes, I know. I love it. I want to know where I'm at. I want to know what I have to do. So, I mean, it's awesome. They're everywhere. Every 2 holes, you see a massive leaderboard in your face. And so I knew where I was at for sure early on. But, I had kind of game planned with my coach and my dad. And we talked about, just a couple under and, I'd have a chance. I was only 4 shots back, going into the final round. So, and I love that golf course. So I knew I could kind of tear it up. So
you'd obviously played there before 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like, going in for a 4th time? What kind of confidence or mentality did you have going into the tournament?
Yeah, it's just a struggle getting through the first course. We played a different course beforehand, Champions Retreat, and that is tough. It's not set up for me at all, so I knew as long as I just get through the cut, which I hadn't before. This is my first time making the cut and being able to play Augusta the final round, and So just knowing that I was able to get through and put myself in position, I knew like my game was in the right spot to hopefully take it deep at Augusta, and I did. So that was exciting.
That's awesome. What was the most like memorable hole or moment of the tournament?
Number 16, I think everybody and their mother saw it. It was so nervy. I hit a good shot. I just pulled it a little bit, and like everybody thought it was in the water, but there's just no way it could end like that. And barely carried, landed on the only flat spot, hit it to 5 feet. Like, it was just insane. The pin's in a bowl. You would think that I would just go right, but just lucky.
What was the feeling of walking up to that famous 18th hole? I talked to your coach, and he talked to me about, watching you do that. Just like, what did that feel like at such like a historic course?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, and I could really feel that the crowd was on my side, which is obviously a great experience too. And the gallery had gotten pretty big, and I love a good crowd. I think that's amazing. Means you're doing something right. So just walking up, Tiger's done it so many times. Everybody's done it, and at the moment, like, I thought I'd won. I thought I had done it, but just having such a good round going and having the opportunity to play in front of so many people at such a famous golf course. I mean, it was just such a cool feeling.
Totally. And then kind of going through, the rest of this USC season, and then just your own personal goals. What are you looking to do for the rest of the season, and then personally as you keep moving forward?
I'm just excited. I love my team. My teammates are the sweetest, the best. We get along so well, and we have some good girls here that are leaving too, so just really want to finish strong for the seniors and finish strong for those leaving us this coming season. I think we have a good chance for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Named the number 1 seed in the East Lansing Regional, USC will continue ahead into the postseason with some steam.
USC Women's Lacrosse had its senior day this past weekend at the LA Memorial Coliseum, finish out their home schedule with only 2 losses in Los Angeles. USC won its senior day in style as they rolled past Colorado 15-6. Senior midfielder Claudia Shevitz led the Trojans with 4 goals. However, the highlight of the game was that 10 separate USC players scored. Graduate student Ella Haney scored in her final home game for the Trojans as she finished off a fantastic season with 40 goals and counting this year. Meanwhile, freshman midfielder Lily Bunting scored her first goal of her career. The Trojans' last game of the regular season will finish off at San Diego State before starting postseason play in the Pac-12 tournament.
USC Baseball's unpredictable regular season is beginning to come to a close. This past week, the Trojans fell to Sacramento State 2-0, but they pulled out a victory against Santa Clara, winning 12-11. Last night, the Trojans faced Cal State Fullerton, defeating them 6-4. The Trojans' last 5 games have been rocky and uncertain. After a ranked win against number 17 UC Irvine, the Trojans proceeded to lose to unranked Sacramento State. As the Pac-12 tournament approaches, what do you guys think the future of USC baseball will look like?
Well, I think it's no secret this team is going to have to perform in the Pac-12 tournament and ultimately win it to get a bid into the NCAA tournament. But honestly, this has been a season with, I think, plenty of bright spots at the micro level. I think from a bullpen standpoint, I really like Josh Blum, Fisher Johnson. I think there's names in that bullpen that have done really well. I just think starting pitching, especially with the injury to Caden Aoki, has been very inconsistent. I think bats really need to wake up down the stretch. They've been good in certain games. Obviously, the UC Irvine putting up 12 runs against them twice, beating Santa Clara like that, but against Sacramento State, 2 really bad games. And so I think for USC, it's the close games that they need to win down the stretch and ultimately make a bid at the tournament.
Yeah, Casey, you're right. There have been some good individual performances, but overall, I'm ready to wrap this season up. The Trojans, they're not good. They're not a good team. Losing to Sacramento State is honestly disgraceful. They are such a bad team. It's just hard to watch.
But then they beat number 2 team in the country.
Focusing on the losses, though, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just like a glass is half empty, not half full.
But let's remember that when they beat Oregon State, that was a long time ago. More recently, they've only alternated wins and losses, and so you do bring up a good point.
Well, I'm thinking maybe they play well in these kind of tight games against teams. They need that fire under them, I think. And I think they'll have that opportunity.
They play down to their opponents.
Exactly. Yeah. I think they'll have that opportunity in the tournament. So let's see what happens there.
Hoping they do.
Yeah. Well, now let's turn things over to our friends Thomas and Will at the couch to discuss their Trojans of the week.
It all comes down to this, the battle of the century, Wills versus Thomas, the last Trojan of the week. That's right, I'm joined by 2 Wills on the couch, my main antagonist of the semester, the Jokers to my Batman, the Angel Reese's to my Caitlin Clark, the NCAA to my Reggie Bush. But for the final show, we're doing it a little different. We've chosen our top 5 Trojan of the Weeks from this semester to build the ultimate squad. Let's take a look at the final Team Thomas. It's Catherine Park, Caitlin Dobler, Minna Abraham, Johnny Brackens Jr., and Vladimir Ikubenko. The ultimate squad, a winning squad.
Team Will's top 5 will span a couple different sports. Between the two of us, we've got a couple women's basketball studs in Rhea Marshall and Mackenzie Forbes, a star freshman on the court in Isaiah Collier, a big-time hitter in Ethan Hedges, and a veteran goal machine in Shelby Tilton of USC Lacrosse. All right, so we've both got our top 5, the conglomeration of all the work we've done throughout the semester. Thomas, why do you have the better overall team?
The conglomeration of the work shows up in the numbers. Between my 5 players, and just these 5 players, not even the entire body of work, 9 Pac-12 titles, 11 first-team All-American honors between a couple of the players. The numbers speak for themselves. When they're doing that on the conference and national stages at that level, they have more All-American honors than Pac-12 titles. That just shows they are the Trojans of the week, the Trojans of the year.
Thomas, this has been the year of USC women's basketball. It's been the year of women's basketball generally, but I had to get a couple of USC players on there. Rhea Marshall, right out of the gate when they beat Ohio State, got the nickname from the football team that Juju Watkins was Kobe and she was Shaq. Averaged a double-double in the regular season. Outstanding year for her. And
Wait. Is Rhea Marshall the best player on her team? Because you just mentioned it. Juju Watkins is the best player on the team. How can you choose the second and third best players on the team when you have Juju Watkins up there at number 1?
As you're well aware, we made the agreement at the start of the year. We're not taking the stars of these teams because they're too obvious.
That's
why Caleb Williams isn't on here.
So you decided to choose members of that team when they are objectively worse than Juju Watkins, because you admit it.
Thomas, last I checked, there's not one player on the court. There's 5 players on the court. We have players that contribute to the overall.
Contribute to a win. I have winners. Catherine Park, Pac-12 championship most recently, and a Pac-12 tournament 15 under par. Caitlin Dobler, 2 Pac-12 titles. Minna Abraham, Pac-12 freshman of the year.
So hang on.
They don't contribute. They win.
You're going to tell me that these basketball players aren't winners? I mean, Mackenzie Forbes' NCAA tournament, she had 20 points every game they played. She was unbelievable. Shot a great percentage from 3 as well.
Did she make an All-American team? Juju Watkins did that, and multiple of my players did that.
Well,
but you decided to choose basketball players. You could have dipped into other sports, but you decided to go with basketball players. That was your decision. I decided to pick winners at the individual and at the team level.
Let's talk about a couple other players that we chose, because we didn't just choose women's basketball players. I want to talk about Isaiah Collier and Shelby Tilton for a couple of reasons. One, because I think they battled the most adversity out of any of these Trojans of the week. You look at what Isaiah Collier had to go through this season, battling injuries and everything that was going around him on the USC men's basketball team, and he was by far the best player on that team. And I think you really saw him kick it into the gear once he got back from injury in February. He played really well throughout the rest of the season, and I think you're going to see that pay off where he goes in the NBA draft soon. And I also think Shelby Tilton, you see what USC Lacrosse has had to battle through this season, not playing on their home field. Like,
let's talk about battling. Let's talk about battling. Minna Abraham was a freshman this year. You want to talk about battling through it? She should not have been on this stage. She was 17 when she first started winning, like she's doing, and now she's doing it on the national stage. She was voted at the Tommy Awards Newcomer of the Year with guess who? Juju Watkins. They are on the same level. That's why they got the same award. They might not be covered as much, women swim and dive, but Minna Abraham, freshman of the year, had to battle through a lot this season.
Yeah, but you look at what Shelby Tilton has contributed to USC Lacrosse throughout the season. This is a really good
contributed
team.
Again.
No, but she's
winners.
led this team in shots on goal. She's a very good player in her own right.
Yeah, I know. Look, you've had the obsession all semester with the individual athletes, and I get it. They've accomplished a lot, but I am about the team. I'm about team accomplishments, getting things done with the team, and that's why I obviously went heavy with women's basketball, because I respect women's basketball. You obviously do not.
I obviously respect women's basketball, but you can't talk about contributors. You got to talk about winners here. Sure, individual winners versus team winners, but they are still have that USC logo on their uniform. They are still representing for USC. They are winning for USC. But I certainly had a lot of fun this semester doing Trojans of the Week. Mr. Will, I'm going to miss you. Mr. Simons, I'm going to miss you.
I've got another segment. Don't write me off just yet, Thomas.
But I'm just going to say, I learned language for this. You guys tripping. We'll take a look at how the NBA playoffs are shaping thus far when we come back from the break. And Will's not actually going anywhere. He'll be talking NHL playoffs with Casey next on Sports Scene.
Bonjour, je suis le grand musique.
Je suis la jeune fille.
Yes, that's French they're speaking. And no, these children aren't French. They're American. And they've acquired their amazing new language skills from Muzzy, the remarkable new video language program for children developed by the British Broadcasting Corporation. With this unique BBC language course, children learn a second language with incredible ease. 4 delightful videos quickly become their favorite TV show and teaches children the same way they learned English. Learning another language becomes fun. You'll be amazed when your children begin speaking and understanding their new language from the very first day through this unique method. The entire course, 4 videos, 2 audio cassettes, the activity book, and the Parent's Guide and Answer book is available in French, Spanish, Italian, or German.
To order, use your credit card and call this number. We'll ship and charge you $28.08 a month for 6 months. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call 1-800-424-0700.
Okay, this stuff is really amazing. I mean, I put it in my mouth and I taste watermelon, but it's not just that. I taste strawberry too, but it's kind of like a watermelon-y strawberry put together. Hey, hang on. Sorry about that. And the bubbles are really awesome. I mean, that's why they call it Max. I guess, obviously, that sort of makes sense once you think about it. Oh, I'm Dan, and that's Chuck.
Hubba Max. A whole new kind of bubble. Hey!
Welcome back to our weekly NHL segment, Breaking the Ice. It's playoff time. The LA Kings lost their Game 1 matchup with the Edmonton Oilers in what was a dominant game for Connor McDavid and company. Scoring machine Zach Hyman tallied his first career playoff hat trick, and McDavid added 5 helpers in the win. Kings netminder Cam Talbot wasn't done any favors as the Oilers went 3 for 4 with the extra man. Edmonton won 7-4, and Game 2 will be tonight at 7 p.m.
Rivalry over the last 5 years in the NHL, and it's down in Florida with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. As the Panthers have gotten good, this has become a really fun back and forth, and it's been a really fun first 2 games of the series as well. Florida's won 3-2 twice. That game 2 was incredible. The save Sergei Bobrovsky made on the back of his forearm basically to rob a goal, and of course the play they've gotten from Carter Verhaeghe has goals in both games, including the overtime winner in game number 2. The question for Tampa, they're getting production from the Kucherov line. Kucherov has 2 assists. Stamkos has a couple of goals, but can they get more production from the rest of that lineup? If they don't, it's going to be a quick exit for the 2-time Cup champs.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking over into the West at the Colorado Avalanche and Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, the Jets won that division, got the second place in that division, but have home ice advantage in that series. But the goaltending in that series has been awful. Connor Hellebuck, I thought, was the best goaltender in the NHL. He's playing terrible. He has a 5.4 goals against in that series thus far. And the Jets very well could be up 2-0 right now in the series, but they blew that second game. Arturi Lehkonen can be thanked for that. Colorado also scored 4 goals in the second period. But, I mean, even for Winnipeg in Game 1, they were leading 7-4 down the stretch and only won by 1 goal. So I think for Winnipeg, they're going to really have to keep up their defense. Their offense has not really been a problem. Kyle Connor's been electric, Mark Scheifele, but I think really down the stretch, are they going to protect their star netminder in goal? I don't know. I mean,
and losing home ice is such a big deal for them because we know how raucous it gets up in Winnipeg with the whiteout. It's one of the best home ice advantages you have in all of the sport. So for Colorado to take that away is a real big deal. But Casey, why don't you run through the rest of the West for us?
Yeah, well, in the West, the Golden Knights stole Game 1 on the road against the conference-leading Dallas Stars. The Nashville Predators even the series against the Vancouver Canucks, who are now without Thatcher Demko. And 2 series are tied at 1, and 2 will have their Game 2s begin tonight, and that's the Edmonton series, and we'll be on the watch there here in LA.
So in the Eastern Conference, there's only 1 series that is actually where a road team has been able to steal home ice away, and that would be the Toronto Maple Leafs winning Game 2 in Boston. I already mentioned the Panthers. The New York Rangers have really handled the heavily favored Capitals in a very physical series, and those New York Islanders just couldn't hold on to a 3-0 lead, so they are down 2-0 to the heavily favored Hurricanes. But now let's send it back to the desk to discuss the other spring sport in playoffs, the NBA.
Thanks, guys. The NBA playoffs are well underway with most matchups having already played 2 games in the series. The Pacers knotted up their series with the Bucks after 37 points from Pascal Siakam. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Timberwolves went up 2-0 on the Phoenix Suns as Anthony Edwards continues to prove he just has that dog in him. And the city of New York is more hyped than ever as the Knicks went 2-0 on rivals Philadelphia. The Lakers went down 2 games to the Nuggets on Monday as they blew a 20-point third-quarter lead. Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., and Jamal Murray led the charge for Denver, all scoring over 20 points. The Nuggets managed to tie it up with only seconds to play when Jamal Murray took the game into his hands.
Go to overtime. Murray makes a move.
The Clippers and Mavericks are currently 1-1 after Game 2 in the first round of the playoffs. Despite Kawhi Leonard's return to the Clips, Dallas prevailed in Game 2, winning 96-93. The 4-seeded Clippers and 5th-seeded Mavericks are currently split, with Game 3 lined up for Friday. So guys, what team has impressed you most so far in the NBA playoffs?
Well, to me, it's the New York Knicks. Our good friend Will Camardella bleeds orange and blue. This is partially for him, but I'm impressed by the Knicks. I think the city of New York is always behind them, but especially now. I love me some Josh Hart basketball. He was at the Portland Trail Blazers for maybe 6 months, fell in love with his game, and I think he is a great addition to them. Obviously, they have the chemistry with the former 2018 National Championship winners in Villanova all being there, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and of course Josh Hart. I'm excited about the Knicks.
I'm going with another team up 2-0 in their series, but in the Western Conference, Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, you mentioned, is very, very good, but he didn't even play that good in Game 2, and they still managed to win, and that was thanks to their starting lineup just pounding it and being so good and being so deep. I think they're such a good deep team. I think the Timberwolves could go all the way this year, and they're doing this against the Phoenix Suns, a team that has Kevin Durant, who has a long resume of playoff experience.
You know, guys, I was really impressed by the Lakers. Look, they earned their spot in the play-in tournament. They did blow that lead, but they only lost by the buzzer beater point by the Denver Nuggets. So if I remember correctly, Terrence, you picked the Nuggets to win the whole thing. So if I were you, I would be a little bit nervous because the number 7th seeded team almost beat your precious Nuggets.
Well, my precious Nuggets, I don't know about that. Well, sadly, that is going to do it for us here at Sports Scene. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to an amazing producer, Joey Elbaum, who is graduating. Joey, thank you so much for all your hard work, and we will miss you. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Terrence Holton.
I'm Casey Kasliner.
And I'm Grace Schneider.